Hi, thanks for tuning back in. It's Tim the Potter again from the Canton Clay Works in Connecticut. What I'm going to do now is continue with our beginner lesson. Our first lesson, we threw a very basic, simple cylinder. I'm going to go through the hand positions a little faster, and I'm going to form a bowl or two for you, just to show you how you're going to go from the rudimentary cylindrical straight vertical wall and how we then shape it or rib it into a wider, more open form. So I smash my white ball of clay down onto the center of the wheelhead using the concentric circles in the wheelhead to help me get it as close to center as possible. The first function is trying to get the clay on center. I have three hand positions I use for getting the clay on center. The first is called coning up. Notice the key to coning up is my hand isn't constantly moving. It's sitting in a pretty much fixed position. My hands are my mold. So basically I'm just creating a series of molds with my hands, highly lubricated so the clay can slide through my hands without tension. And the first step is creating a conical shape. Then I take the conical shape and I push it down, called coning down. As I cone the clay down, I have firm pressure on my exterior right hand, pushing the clay into center. Center, as I had mentioned in the first take for the cylinder, is getting the millions of clay platelets in this mound aligned in series, which could be thousands and thousands and thousands of concentric circles. Concentric circles are a series of circles that share the same center point, allowing me to make a centered or symmetrical pot versus a pot that's doing the hula hoop thing. This is a hand position called cosmetic centering, where I'm just getting the last 10% of the clay on center. And now I can open the form. One of the tricks I learned from an associate only a few years ago, in fact. So I've been doing this almost 30 years and we learn lots of new tricks all the time, is when I pull my finger open, to open the interior, is I leave a little nipple of clay on the inside bottom. I then take my rib tool, which has a flat edge, and I compress the inside bottom, including that little nipple, downward into a flat bottom from the inside center point to the inside wall at 3 o'clock, which essentially is the inside radius at 3 o'clock. I press down firmly, and the excess clay and very moist clay gets trimmed off by the rib tool, and now I have a very wide bottom, very smooth, flat form. This is the base piece that you saw in the first video, which looks like your cat food bowl. Now what we're going to do is pull this clay wall vertically with a hand position called pulling up. I use the right index finger folded like this at 5 o'clock, the left index finger and middle finger on the inside, and I hook the thumbs together, creating a clamp or a claw. I pull this clay upward as I gently squeeze it. If my finger starts to catch and gets tacky or bounces, I put moisture on it. I pull this clay vertically into a cylindrical form, and because we want to create a bowl, I don't want to pull this rim too tall and too thin as the cylindrical form you may have seen in the first video. Why? Because we're going to rib and shape the rim outward, and as we stretch this rim outward, it's going to become thinner. So one of the keys in beginner pottery is to think ahead of time of where is your rim going to go? Where is your wall going to go? And in this case, we're going to rib it out, round it outward, stretching the opening wider. So therefore, this thickness of a rim, which is about 1/2 inch, is a nice substantial rim to rib and shape outward, which will mean that when my final product, the bowl, will have maybe about 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 inch rim. So it'll have a nice substantial rim. So now I'm going to take my rib tool, And I'm going to use this curved edge to shape this interior wall at 5 o'clock outward. So notice I tuck my elbows. I hold the rib at a 45-degree angle. I start at the rim. I work my clay out very gradually on a diagonal. Diagonal meaning I don't push this base out wider. I'm pushing the interior wall out on a taper or a slight diagonal. Notice how the rim is getting thinner as the clay stretches outward. Now the interior wall of my bowl takes the form of the curvature of the rib. So I'm a real toy boy when it comes to ribs. I have many different types of ribs that I use. I have sticks that are ribs. I have a giant aluminum rib made out of airplane aluminum. So I love my tools, and I use many different tools to shape. Now you can see the rim is slightly irregular. I fold a sponge over the rim, I compress it in just a wee bit, and watch what I'm doing. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to add a slight concave curvature into the rim, which I love when it comes to glazing, because the glazing will just puddle slightly in that curvature of the rim, which just adds a wonderful dynamic when you go to decorate your pot. This is a very, very simple bowl, but when we do something extravagant to the foot and we make a rim that has some dynamic, it is far more than just a beginner pot. It becomes a beginner pot that has some integrity and dynamic and design to it, as simple as it is. So the next thing I'm going to do is wire it off the wheel head, just like that. I push the wire down onto the wheel head, slide across. I then add water to the wheel head, and I wire water under the pot. You notice how the pot is slightly moving? Then I take, in this case I'm using a piece of tile. I put water all over that. I put my fingers at the base of the pot, and I slide it right across on top of my tile, just like that. So that is our second lesson, which is making a very basic bowl form, but a very sophisticated bowl at that.